guys, how's it going? Welcome to kind of somewhat of a brand new series from the 90th minute, where the 90th minute brings on a guest. Usually what we do with this is that we put it in the middle of the podcast. Now this is turning into a small series, so it's kind of the 90th minute has a football discussion featuring a guest. So today's guest is Big Pav. What's up, Pav?
How you doing, Waz? How you doing?
We're doing good. I've been wanting to get you on the show for a while now. I mean, every time I see your TikToks, you're usually spitting facts. And you're not.
I like to imagine so. People
Yeah.
don't seem to agree sometimes, but oh well. What
I
can
think
you
it's
do?
for the most part you're not a delusional Chelsea fan. I think you see how things are, and that's good.
Total opposite. Total like opposite. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly, frothing at the mouth after each win, right? I'm not going nuts. So
I mean, I guess
I don't know.
we should kind of start off there. Like, how did you become a Chelsea? Actually, first off, just tell everyone who you are and what you kind of do.
Well, my name is Big Pav. I'm obviously a TikToker. I just made a YouTube channel, The Blue Opinion. It's in the link to my bio of my TikTok. But I basically just do TikTok videos. I talk about, football in any way I can, really. Recently, it's been a lot about Chelsea just because there's so much going on with them, with the top four race. But apart from Chelsea, I like to talk about other stuff. I like to talk about underrated players, who people should sign, who have been the best players this season. Anything from like basic stuff to like the most obscure things you could talk about. That's the type of stuff that one, I do, and two, I want to do in the future and try and consistently make new content and innovate it. So yeah, that's basically who I am. You asked me why I started supporting Chelsea. 2010 World Cup. Lot of promo about African players. First one I ever heard about, Didier Drogba. It wasn't even about how good of a player he was. It was just about the fact he managed to stop a war 4 years ago. So that was mad. Yeah. And as a kid, you hear something like that, and you're like, oh, like that's nuts.
This guy's a boss, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. And unfortunately, Cote d'Ivoire, they went out during the group stages of that World Cup.
I think so.
I mean, they were in the same group as Portugal and Brazil.
Ooh.
But then I watched the Champions League final, Champions League semi-final series against Barcelona as well. I was blown away by that, and then I just started like fully supporting them in 2014. So that's kind of how it's been since then.
Kind of just fell in love with the club, right?
Yeah, it was the first one I knew about too, so It wasn't like
crazy. So we've essentially been following football for like the same amount of time. I mean, I kind of fell in love with the game around 2013. Of course, the season that Ferguson retires. Things just kind of but it's I've learned to be content with United.
Well, listen, the full season that I supported Chelsea, we won the league, and then the season after we finished 10th. So.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. I actually did a YouTube channel around that time, and I ranted quite a bit. I actually called for 10th. Jose Mourinho.
Well, that was which season was
15-16.
Oh, okay.
15-16.
Yeah, I was like.
I was calling for Jose Mourinho out after that 3-1 loss to Southampton. I was calling for Jurgen Klopp in, and hey, you know what? The way that's panned out now.
It's been a carousel of managers from Chelsea. How do you feel about that as a Chelsea supporter?
Listen, to have one manager for 7 years, 5 years, it's going to be difficult. The more important thing is to have an underlying philosophy at the club, and I think we're trying to see new managers come in who have that attacking philosophy. Obviously, we went from Antonio Conte to Maurizio Sarri, and listen, his first season was a bit tumultuous in the sense that, fans were hating him and everything, but you could clearly see that there was a style he wanted to play. There was a philosophy, and it was a well-fleshed-out philosophy. Ever since Maurizio Sarri was at the club, I bought into the philosophy. There was other stuff. I think the way he carried himself, I think the way that, not necessarily playing certain players, the fact that he was consistently playing Marcos Alonso instead of guys like Emerson, but it was like little things looking back on it. But he clearly instilled a philosophy, and he also, won a trophy with us, and he managed to get Champions League for us. So I would have liked to see him stay a second year, even after all the shit I gave him. But you can see with Frank Lampard now they're trying to get in another attacking manager. How well it's going to work, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that we're now trying to see a more attacking philosophy come around, especially since we had, before that it was Benitez, then Mourinho, then Conte. So, listen, hopefully there's a philosophy at the club. Whether or not it's a manager every 2-3 seasons, I'm going to be fine with that. But as long as there's a philosophy there and a way of recruiting.
Well, in a sense, you can't really be mad if you're always winning titles like every couple seasons, right?
Yeah, but how sustainable it is, I'm not too sure. Now we're in kind of a weird period at Chelsea.
No, definitely.
Kind of have Go ahead.
Oh,
Go
yeah, I
ahead.
mean, yeah, you typically haven't seen Chelsea really bring in like an English manager or like a former player as a manager, right?
Yeah. No, I'm totally fine with not hiring an English manager because, in my opinion, the English game is overrated. But
Okay, that's
well, the
that's
deal
that's an interesting
we're only
topic. I like
yeah
that.
we're only seeing them integrate foreign concepts now, which is why you're seeing guys like Trent Alexander-Arnold, Phil Foden, Jadon Sancho. You could even argue Erling Haaland because he was born in Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're starting to see more foreign concepts come in now, when in reality that should have been the case in the 90s or the hell even the 80s. I mean, but that's a whole nother spiel.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm totally fine with not hiring an English manager. But the thing is, this squad now we're in a tough spot because it's essentially a Frankenstein of a squad because you
Mm-hmm.
have pieces of Mourinho's team, you have pieces of Conte's team,
Yeah.
Sarri's team, Lampard's getting his players. So I feel like there has to be some kind of identity put on the squad. Again, that's more through a philosophy rather than just each individual manager, because that's going to make it easier to integrate in a sense.
Well, how so far? How would you rate Frank Lampard after his first full season? I'm pretty sure, right? At the moment.
Before the return of football, I gave it a 7.
Mm-hmm.
I would I maybe bring it down to a 6.5. I think, listen, we're just rating it off this season. Whether or not, no matter how well I think he's going to do next season or how poorly I think he's going to do next season, whether it's one or the other, the fact of the matter is, for him to get us Champions League football is obviously a huge thing. That's what everybody's talking about. He got us Champions League football. He got us Champions League football. And don't get me wrong, we have to get it. But I think when you further contextualize it, considering the fact that we have only one less loss than when we finished in 10th during the 15-16 season. I think the fact that we conceded, what, 4 less goals than when we finished 10th during the 15-16 season, I think the fact that we are so far off points compared to last season, I think the fact that the Premier League has declined in quality so drastically this season, it's almost expected. I know people are going to say that's very harsh. People are going to say that we had a transfer ban when, funnily enough, we permanently signed Mateo Kovacic, who's been our player of the season. Plus, Christian Pulisic came in this season. And those are our two best players. So I feel like once you look into it a bit further, it's not as great as people think. Listen, get the bag however you gotta. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not. It could have been done in a better manner. Let's just say that.
So I know you've definitely been highly critical of Frank Lampard. Personally, like from my United fans' point of view, I thought Frank's kind of done a decent job. He's got you guys sitting in third and fourth for most of the season, so you can't complain about that. But then you kind
Yeah.
of look at the on-field performances as of late. It hasn't been ideal.
The only comfortable performance was against Watford when we beat them 3-0 since the return of football.
Yeah.
Aston Villa, we went on a blitz for 2 minutes, and we were 1-0 down even beforehand. Manchester City, let's face it, we got quite lucky. Although at the same time, Manchester City's counter-attacking defense was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Leicester, we were under the cosh for a very long time. Billy Gilmore was essentially thrown into the deep end. West Ham, I think that's where we saw the flaws of N'Golo Kante as a holder, and he's barely played there as well. I don't think that's his position at all,
Yeah.
and in his prime, he hasn't played that position. And then, listen, Crystal Palace, if it wasn't for that extremely lucky Cahill injury, I don't think we would have came out with a win in that regard. Plus Zuma's tackle, and then you have the Sheffield United game, which was just awful. And then you have this game as well. It was a bit shaky. It was probably our second most solid performance since the return of football, but still not the most convincing.
Mm-hmm. Would you say they've been the best team in England since the restart, or is that hard to say with City United right now? Because at first,
No,
first for me, like when the restart happened, I thought they were the best for a little bit, but then you started having some questionable performances, like we said, right?
yeah, no. I think the overall quality of the performance certainly doesn't warrant that. I think the results itself, now we've won 8 of our last 16
Mm-hmm.
Premier League games, and we're still third. I don't know how that's possible, but um, I don't know. No, we're not the best team in England. I don't think so. Especially considering the fact that we've gotten so lucky and the fact that we had losses against West Ham and Sheffield United. It's one of Manchester United or Manchester City. Because I'd honestly say Manchester City. Because man, they play some really nice football. Yes, they lost 2 games. I really don't care. They're just a really fun team to watch.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, with the ban being overturned, I don't think Pep's playing any games this summer. I don't think so.
No, no, definitely not. I mean, they are the type of club that they'll sign whoever they want. They consistently have been winning trophies ever since they got bought out. So, but
Yeah.
what are your thoughts right now on the current signings that Chelsea's kind of made? Werner, Ziyech, and possibly even Kai Havertz coming up.
First of all, we need defenders.
Mm-hmm.
But before I get into that, Werner, listen, we got to make him our focal point. We already have him, so we got to make him our focal point. We got to feed him, and listen, if we do that, he'll be fine. People have said from the Bundesliga that he's a bit of a flat track bully. I don't mind that. Listen, I know people are gonna hate me saying this, but Robert Lewandowski is a flat track bully, and you see how many goals he scores.
Yeah.
Actually, Timo Werner has scored more goals against the Bundesliga top four this season than Lewandowski. Lewandowski's only scored 3, but he's still able to perform on a consistent level. So if Werner can do the same, listen, you're gonna hear no complaints from me. Ziyech to me seems like a 7 out of 10 type player. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a superstar at our club. I don't even know if he's going to be too much of a star. What worries me the most is how Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to be affected, because I think he's probably our most promising youngster, plus just a fantastic talent overall. For me, he should be starting more and playing more in general. The idea of Kai Havertz, it's nice. My only worry is that Frank is going to play with 2 attacking 8s next season. I won't like that. If he plays with a Jovic type combination of Jorginho and Kovacic, I'd be happy with that. Even then, I don't see that happening either. I'm not too sure. Plus, 90 million for him. Listen, he's a good finisher. He's a decent dribbler. Passing, not his strongest suit. I just get the feeling that we have to build a team around him. And with him and Werner on that side, I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, no, defense should definitely be our top priority.
No, I totally agree, because when I'm looking at Chelsea, especially like in the recent games, I've noticed like the defense just leaves so much space, and they get hit on the counter so easily at times. Definitely, you've been very critical of Antonio Rudiger.
Well, I've said since, again, I've been on TikTok,
Yeah.
Rudiger's our worst center back at the club, but I think it doesn't matter who we play in defense. The defensive structure is the main problem. I consistently see our wingbacks bombing forward, which is fine. Reece James is a phenomenal crosser of the ball. Marcos Alonso offers a goal threat, and Cesar Azpilicueta's crossing is quite good too. The problem is our center backs push out wide to cover that space, and what that results in is a massive gap in the middle. Now, what we saw today versus Norwich City was Jorginho would actually come and sit, and what that would allow is for the center backs to not only be more compact at times, but also move a bit out wide at times as well. And I feel like with N'Golo Kante at the base, it's nowhere near the same, because N'Golo Kante will push forward and press, and what that will result in is the center backs again going back out wide. But the problem is there's so many huge gaps. And that's exactly what led to West Ham's winner against us as well. And that happened multiple times during that game too.
You also believe that you guys need another left back, because you guys have been linked with Ben Chilwell. How do you feel about that right now?
I'm not a Chilwell guy. First of all, he's mid, and for 80 million, no thank you. Alex Telles is available for what, 40 million?
And there's also Tagliafico, who we've been linked with as well.
Tagliafico's okay. He's a bit above Chilwell's level, but for 22.5 million, listen, he's a bargain. He'll work. Honestly, I would rather just put Aspi on the left and put Reece James on the right, and actually have a proper defensive system, and then I will be fine. Because you can just have Aspi shift over into a left center back, and you have the center back in the middle, and you just have a right center back on the right hand side, and you let Reece James go forward and play those killer balls. I will be perfectly fine with that.
And then another position that Chelsea have had issues with is the goalkeeping, Kepa. I think Onana would be another fit. I know we keep going back to Ajax. I don't know. Everyone's linked with Ajax recently, right?
Yeah.
But
the thing is with Andre Onana, he's not too much of an upgrade on Kepa Arrizabalaga. Last season, Kepa was actually very good in my opinion. Again, I think it's due to the high quality of shots that Kepa has faced consistently. There are goalkeepers out there. Listen, I don't think any of them are that great. There are projects. There are young guys, 22 years old. There's Atle Bayindir, if I said his name correctly, from Fenerbahce. There's also Alexander Maximenko, who I'm a fan of, from Spartak Moskva. But, I mean, in terms of, we got to get this guy in immediately. He will go right into the lineup, and he'll be phenomenal for us. There's nobody really in that regard. And that's kind of the same thing with center back, apart from one guy, who for me is a Van Dijk-esque type signing, in Duya Chuleta from Marseille.
Oh wow, okay. Because that's a name that hasn't been circulated a lot. I like the fact that you brought him up.
He's phenomenal. He's got everything. And as a Croat myself, I love him. I mean, he's physical, 6'4", built like a brick house. Phenomenal on the ball. Not only is his short passing fantastic, but his long balls are also amazing. Over 50% completed. He's gotten he's gotten comparisons to guys like David Luiz in terms of his ball playing ability. The only difference is his defensive ability is also fantastic.
That's perfect, right?
Yeah, and listen, he's at Marseille, not exactly the biggest market. We could get him for
Yeah.
30, 40 million. Would be an absolute steal.
Because I know like everyone gets linked with the center backs in Italy, like Koulibaly, Skriniar, and who else is there? De Vrij, right? I mean, everyone's linked
Yeah.
with Upamecano, so
Listen, Skriniar and Utds would be the dream. You have an aggressive center back, you have a conservative center back.
yeah.
Make Chelsea Slavic again. That's what I'm saying.
I'm loving that.
Maximenko behind them, Kovacic in front of them. I'd be happy.
Jesus,
But yeah, no. Romagnoli would be a good fit, but the problem is Mino Raiola is blacklisted at the club.
Gee, okay. See, I'm loving the fact you're like throwing the accents on the names. It's perfect.
That's just how I pronounce them.
Perfect. So I always struggle with pronouncing some names in football. I don't know why. But I mean, let's kind of go back to Chelsea as well. Like, what are your just thoughts on the academy graduates recently? I mean, there's been so many coming through, right? Mason Mount, Billy Gilmore, the list goes on.
I think our top three is Billy Gilmore,
Mm-hmm.
Reece James, and Callum Hudson-Odoi. I think just in terms of sheer potential, Reece James would be a phenomenal attacking right back for sure. Again, if he has the proper cover behind him, if he has somebody like a Fabinho behind him who shifts over whenever Trent Alexander-Arnold goes forward, I'll be very, very happy because every single time I see him cross the ball, there's always the intent of getting a man on the end of it. And it's not just hitting and hoping. He whips it in, and there's a clear somebody that he wants to get to, whether it's Olivier Giroud, whether it's Christian Pulisic. It doesn't matter. Marcos Alonso, it doesn't matter. Callum Hudson-Odoi, fantastic creative winger. People also say, oh, he has the same amount of Premier League goals as Brandon Williams. He was the highest scoring teenager in European competitions last season as well, so he can clearly do it. Unfortunately, Willian is starting ahead of him, which I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, not the biggest fan of that. Billy Gilmore would be phenomenal under somebody like Maurizio Sarri, I think, especially considering how much Sarri likes players like Jorginho, because him and Jorginho are both holding facilitators, very similar physical profiles. Obviously, Jorginho's a bit taller, but the problem with Billy Gilmore is he's still very raw, still has to be coached. He's not very press resistant, and we saw that against Leicester City. We also saw that against Crystal Palace. His defensive positioning is a bit off as well. So I think he just needs the proper coaching, and then he would be a fantastic holding facilitator for sure.
No, yeah. I mean, Billy. I mean, especially with players at that age that need time to develop. They're not physically ready. That's for sure. And
yeah,
a lot of hope is put on these young players at such a young age. I always feel there's so much pressure, especially your Greenwoods, your Fodens, and it's like these guys are 18, 19. You relax, give them time.
Yeah. I think Phil Foden exemplifies the importance of coaching because Pep Guardiola, we remember for time, Pep Guardiola said, this guy has more potential than, Messi, Ronaldo, Iniesta, Xavi. And we're all like, okay, well then why is this guy not playing? That's because Pep Guardiola has essentially been with him on the training ground 24/7, teaching him not just the fundamentals of the game, but establishing the fundamentals and then building on top of it. So a lot of these guys are still, getting the fundamentals down when in reality, you want to put them on the pitch. They have to have the fundamentals. First of all, that's their bedrock, and then you build on top of it. And that's why we're seeing Phil Foden be so exemplary for Manchester City, is because of the fact that Pep Guardiola is able to implement these ideas on the training ground first, then you play him.
Now, I'll go talk this like from a United fan's perspective, because I noticed everyone like Mason Greenwood's getting all this praise, but then you have players like Angel Gomez and Tahith Chong who've been trying to get into the starting 11, but like you said, they need time to learn the game. And I've noticed that from Tahith Chong and Angel Gomez, with that whenever they've played, they just couldn't handle the Premier League yet.
Yeah, I think that's down to two things. One, I just don't think that their ceiling is as high as other young players. Listen, every young player has potential. But listen, some are going to be more gifted than others. It's just inevitability. I see that being very frequent where like everybody says, "Oh, this guy's young, he needs to develop." It's like, no, he's just not as good as these other guys.
Yeah.
But that not only that, but again, when I call Ole a glorified PE teacher, that's what I mean. I just don't think that he's coaching these guys in the proper way. I think with guys like Mason Greenwood, don't get me wrong, he's been fantastic. For me, he's the second best youngster in the Premier League. But his overall game still needs some work. I feel like when in regards to his finishing, he's very double-footed, which is, I mean, I don't think we've seen anything like that since Ousmane Dembele at Rennes before he moved to Borussia Dortmund. But yeah, no, he still has to improve his overall game, and I feel like the only way that's going to happen is with a proper manager. I'd love to see him play as a striker and be coached by somebody like Maurizio Pochettino, for example.
Okay, let's talk about that because you've also been critical with Ole. Personally, as a United supporter, I've been very optimistic. I've kind of liked some of the things he's done with the club right now. For me, it's been more exciting football than the last two managers we had, than Van Gaal and Mourinho. That's what United supporters have been wanting, is attacking, exciting football, and we're finally getting that. And I kind of see his vision and what he's trying to build United, but I do see where you're coming from, where we need more of an experienced manager like Pochettino, or at some point maybe bring in a manager like Chris Wilder from Sheffield, who's kind of established them right now.
I don't know. I don't know whether or not Chris Wilder would be the best.
That's
I don't
just
even think it's necessarily.
just a shout I had right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
but
yeah. No, I know. You're just spitballing,
yeah,
but I think it's more about, again, having philosophy and
hmm
honing it. I'm a big fan of guys like Marco Rosa. I love his philosophy. I love the way he plays his football at Borussia Mönchengladbach. The thing is, he still has to hone his system a little bit more. So I think you have to have a guy who, one, has a philosophy, and two, has been able to hone it. I think obviously Mauricio Pochettino is that guy. He fits that profile. There are other guys. Who knows? Under Gasparini, that could be insane. I mean, you have no idea. I mean, this is actually a very good squad. I think it's better than Chelsea's squad for sure. Um, Everything from the goalkeeper to the defense, the midfield, I'm a big fan of. Obviously, I call Bruno a set piece merchant, but he's still quite good.
yeah.
And then the attack. Listen, you guys have a lot at your disposal. I just think you guys need a proper manager who's willing to instill a philosophy on that team, and then you guys will be fine. I
hmm
think then you guys will be, consistently third, because listen, City and Liverpool still exist. I think you guys will be consistently third, consistently in the Champions League, and then you'll be fine. And the exact same thing could happen to Chelsea too.
Well, I think with United is like we brought in these established managers like Van Gaal and Mourinho, but they're kind of past their best. I mean, Van Gaal didn't win a major trophy. His first major trophy was in the '90s. You bring a manager into the mid two,
Yeah.
yeah. And with
Well, he was
Mourinho,
well he was at he was at Bayern Munchen, and like
and he got
I mean
sacked there.
yeah, I mean, he
So
did bring through Thomas Muller, so we'll
yeah,
have to
well,
give him
he's
that.
always been very known for bringing the youth, but when it comes to winning trophies, which is United needs, he was I don't think he was the right guy, but
Yeah. You know what? I don't know. I just feel like at that point in his career, he was better suited to international football. I mean, we all
yeah,
remember his Dutch team from the
exactly.
2014 World Cup. That was a great team, and that performed very well. But I think the thing is, the difference between international managers and club managers is, club managers, you're with these guys every single day. International managers is more sporadic. Uh, you know, you don't have as much time to instill your philosophy. So then, as a result, you're going to come up with systems that maybe aren't as intricate. And I feel like what Van Gaal did at Manchester United was, we all remember, at the beginning of the season, people were saying Chris Smalling is like the best center back in the league or whatever. But what the problem was I think he overcomplicated the system in the way that he made the attack so structured that it was impossible to have any sort of fluidity. And then what resulted from that was the attack essentially became stagnant. So I think that's the problem. That's why I think that the Netherlands team was perfect for him, because he wasn't able to overcomplicate things. He could keep it simplified. So yeah, I think that's why his time at United wasn't as good as it could have possibly been.
You also hear like former players have highly praised Van Gaal. Like Wayne Rooney even says that he's actually my best ever coach. I think Rashford highly praised
Oh.
him. So players loved playing for him.
I again, I think that shows the complications. Although Zlatan hated that guy.
Yeah. This is the thing.
But then again, that's Zlatan
Yeah,
Ibrahimovic, and
Van Gaal and
Van Hal's an authoritarian. So
like Van Gaal and Mourinho had this similar thing where like some players would love him and certain players would hate him. It was very strange. But
yeah,
I think at the time United needed a manager who understood the current state of football, and that's why Liverpool's doing so well with
yeah.
Jurgen Klopp.
I think they're doing well with Jurgen Klopp because, one, he's had the financial backing. People act as if he's worked with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
No, he managed to get Fabinho, Van Dijk, and Alisson all in the space of 6 months.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Plus, he got Naby Keita before, and Naby Keita at Leipzig was, I mean,
Agreed.
phenomenal player. Actually, really sad to see how he's declined. Obviously, he's still a good player for Liverpool, but I mean, you're talking like 10 goal, 10 assists per type player. Like, that's the potential that he had. Plus, he could do everything. So it was really unfortunate. But yeah, I think with Jurgen Klopp, yeah, he really does have a grasp on modern football. He utilizes attacking wingbacks to perfection. He also utilized the idea of a space holder holding the space that the wingbacks leave behind, which is perfect. Oftentimes you'll see Fabinho and Henderson collapse into a pivot, and I mean, if he can get Thiago Alcantara on top of that, I mean,
Yeah.
that is dirty.
Well,
That is so good.
it's been nice that he's been able to bring in the youth players like Trent Alexander-Arnold, he just kind of rose to fame. Same with Robertson in a sense. So he's the type of player that just gets the best out of his players. Like, there's no other way of putting it, and he understands the game, like we said.
Well, that's down to coaching.
Yeah,
I think another thing as well is, I mean, you want to talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold coming into, the setup and really thriving. A lot of those players were, if not established, they were starters. And then you brought one youngster in, and I think that's something that people underestimate. Is you can't just add 5 youngsters into a squad and expect your team to play great. You have to have an established squad, and then you put one guy in. And I think something similar happened with, I mean, whole host of players. I mean, you want to talk about Lionel Messi at Barcelona, right? Or even Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United. Or, I mean, as a Chelsea fan, you could even say Andreas Christensen during the 17-18 season.
Yeah, no. So I guess my next question is like, what right now? What's your current thoughts on the Premier League as a whole right now?
It's certainly declined this season. It's definitely not been as good. I mean, you want to talk about the top 4 race. Not only do all the teams have less points, but you're talking about Chelsea in the state that they're in, Manchester United, who are just now looking like they're getting something together. Again, whether or not Ole's the right guy, I don't know. But you have Chelsea United, you have Sheffield United, who, I mean, it's Sheffield United. I don't want to, no disrespect.
Yeah,
they shouldn't be contending for Champions League
they've
spots.
definitely overachieved, but you have to credit them for doing that. But you also have to look at like the decline of Arsenal and Spurs. They've kind of just taken advantage of that in a sense.
Those two are such an important decline because I mean, you think about it. Spurs got Champions League football last year, and the fact that they're dropping so hard is crazy. Plus, there's Arsenal, and then you also got Leicester City. I've actually been impressed with Leicester City earlier on in the season. I actually rate most of their squad, but they're just not there yet. Plus, you have Wolves. So I mean, for that to be sort of like your top 4 race, kind of, is not the most convincing. Plus, I just think, I mean, listen, you want to talk about a decline in the Premier League. All you have to do is just take a look at the managers, right? From 3 years ago to now, it's black and white.
Well, since we're also like still kind of on the topic of managers, you've been used to Jose Mourinho. What do you think has changed in his career to this point where he is at right now?
I just think that his tactics are outdated at this point. I mean, he wants to sit back and defend, hit him on the counterattack. That's fine, but you have to have some not a plan B, but you have to have tweaked your you have to have tweaked your team. Plus, I mean, it just. I feel like teams just figured him out already. He just hasn't really adjusted. I feel like it's a similar thing with Carlo Ancelotti at Everton. I mean, both those guys are just done. I mean, Carlo should just retire, go to Italy. Yeah. Carlo should just go to Italy, retire, enjoy his wine, enjoy his Parmigiano. Whereas Jose Mourinho should go back into punditry because when he was on beIN Sports, that was great. I enjoyed that.
Well, personally, I do feel like Ancelotti's done somewhat well at Everton. He's been able to get results from that team with what he's got. So
yeah,
I mean, it's the best they've had in years from what I've seen.
I mean, yeah, like nothing. I mean, there was a bit of hype around Marco Silva last season, but I mean, nothing really. But I don't know. Carlo just seems like a really hands-off guy now. He just seems like he doesn't really do too much. I mean, that's why he lost his job at Bayern Munich because everybody was unhappy with his training because apparently it wasn't on the same level as Pep's.
When I hear managers losing jobs at like teams like Bayern Munich, where you have the best players in your squad and all the money, it's like you lose your. It's like that says something about the state that manager's in, right? In a sense,
kind of. Yeah. It's also the reason, right? If you don't get the right results, that's one thing. But if like the Bayern players were not satisfied with the level of training, they weren't. And then there was that loss to, was it Paris Saint-Germain? And then I think he got sacked after that.
Was that last year? I think, yeah.
I think it was last year because I remember being on a retreat in like the middle of nowhere, so I had no Wi-Fi, couldn't check anything, and Champions League games happened, and literally I'm gonna go eat because like I'm on a retreat with like a bunch of my school, and one of my buddies comes up to me, he's like, "Yo, Carlo Ancelotti's just been sacked from Bayern." I'm like, "Wait, what?" So yeah, that's kind of how that happened. Unfortunate though, he's probably our second best ever manager at Chelsea.
Ancelotti, he's a legendary manager. I think he's probably arguably one of the top 10 of all time. Maybe he's
my top 10.
Yeah, But like I said, Ancelotti, Van Gaal, Marino, they've kind of just got they're past it at the moment with the current football,
Yeah.
the current state. But
Yeah, you kind of have Jose's outdated tactics.
mhm.
You have Van Gaal's overcomplications of his system, and you have Carlo Ancelotti just being laissez-faire and just kind of doing whatever.
Since we're kind of off the topic of Chelsea, and this is a little bit different, but who would you say is your favorite non-Chelsea player and team?
I don't really have a favorite non-Chelsea team.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hate them all equally, but non-favorite Chelsea player.
Yeah.
There's two guys. There's Lionel Messi, because he's Lionel Messi. I don't think I have to say anything. Second is obviously Luka Modric, best Croatian player of all time. You know, gave me one of the best memories ever in terms of
Yeah.
that 2018 World Cup. Phenomenal, deserved the Ballon d'Or in my opinion. I know I may seem a bit biased. I know people may say, "Oh, how can you say that?"
Why do you think he deserved the Ballon d'Or? I know, like I would somewhat agree with you. I thought he was phenomenal that year, especially for Croatia. Some people even slate me like, "Oh, how can you say Modric deserved it?" I mean, he led that team to a World Cup final where no one thought Croatia would get that
Yes.
far. I mean, just
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think he was obviously very good for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
He's been Real Madrid's best midfielder since the
I
14-15 season.
I thought that season he was the best midfielder in the world.
He was.
Yeah.
He's a guy who can do everything. Defend, not necessarily score, but progress the ball. His passing is phenomenal. His dribbling is phenomenal. He can do everything. His long range shooting as well, fantastic. He was very, very good for Real Madrid that year. And not only that, but in the Champions League, people always slag off the current Real Madrid team saying, "Oh, Ronaldo led them, Ronaldo led them." Ronaldo didn't lead them. He scored for them. The team provided for him. Ronaldo's overall game, he did not have much of an influence on the game itself. He just scored because the team could create for him. And Luka Modric was one of the key guys behind that, him and Marcelo. And I mean, those two guys basically led that, and then Karim Benzema was the one creating space for him. So that's essentially what happened. So Luka Modric was essentially the crux of that Real Madrid team in terms of that midfield. Him, Kroos, and Casemiro. I mean, talk about phenomenal midfield three. But
Yeah.
he was probably the jewel in the crown. It's tough saying that because Kroos and Casemiro are so fantastic, but he was probably the jewel in that crown. And then there was Croatia, and I think you could see there. When I say he did everything, I mean he did everything. And I don't mean that he carried the team necessarily, because we had a very good system and we had a very good group of players, but he defended, managed to dribble the ball out of play, progress the ball, pass it. I mean, him and Rakitic just spraying balls left, right, and center against England was how we won that game, because we would just essentially shift England over, and that would allow Šime Vrsaljko to bomb down the wing, and Ivan Perisic and Ante Rebic, and that would allow us to essentially get in behind them. But yeah, he was crucial to that, and he just did everything. And then obviously the season after the World Cup, he wasn't necessarily as good, but he was still very, very good. So I mean, for me, he deserved it. And it was
Just remember, like he played a lot of football in that time and space. For him to replicate that in the next
so
season,
much.
it will be so. It's hard. It's like when people are calling Mo Salah overrated. I mean, I know you'd have some comments about that, but it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, he's not going to replicate his first ever season at Liverpool where he scored over 30 goals. He plays so much football; it takes so much out of you.
Fair enough. No, I agree. I think listen, Mo Salah is another debate
Yeah.
entirely, but yeah, no, Luka Modric, I think from not only that, but Croatia just in general played a ton of football in that World Cup. We
Yeah.
went to extra time every single game, penalties every
Yeah.
single game. I mean, then again, we had Ivica Olic as one of our assistant managers, and that guy, when he was a player, was like the fittest like footballer in the world as far as I'm concerned. He could run for hours. So I mean, I think that's why we made it out of that World Cup alive. But yeah, no, I think he deserved it. I think it was also a weird period. Messi didn't have Messi was probably still quality-wise the best player on the planet, but he didn't have the greatest of years in terms of achievements. Cristiano Ronaldo, for me, was past it in terms of his overall play. Kylian Mbappe was too young. Griezmann, I mean, I'm not even going to mention that guy. He's not even relevant in this conversation. But yeah, there was nobody really that like stood out. So I think Luka Modric did deserve it. I think so.
I just think it's unfortunate that Croatia ended up running to what was arguably one of the best French teams of all time. Like throughout the whole entire tournament, they did play pretty well, but that final was kind of suspect at times, no doubt.
I'm not going to speak too much about that final because I don't like to speak too much
Yeah,
about
okay,
that
that's
final.
fair.
I can't even watch the highlights to
Really?
this day. but France cheated. Griezmann
Okay.
dived for the free kick. Brozovic, when he came in, Griezmann was already heading to the ground before Brozovic made contact with him. And
Hmm.
then that second goal, it was a penalty. It was bull. If there was somebody in the room with me who told me that was a penalty, I would have fought them. For actually no, I wouldn't have probably. I would have. But yeah, no, Griezmann then scores that, does his little stupid Fortnite dance.
Yeah.
I wanted Chime Vrsaljko to go into training next the following season because they were in the same club and just snap his knee or something and go like that was for the final.
Jeez. I like.
Man,
I know. I agree what you're saying. Because if Poland was in that final, I would have had the same reaction. There's no doubt about it.
yeah.
I think anyone would. But
It's not about how we lost. Sorry, it's not about that we lost. Because listen, I came into that game knowing, you know what, we had a fantastic run, made this
mhm,
country proud. France are such a good team. If we lose to them, oh well. But for us to lose
mhm.
in that manner, to get robbed in that way twice, was insane. And for it to be an Argentinian referee as well, you got to remember that because we smashed them in that World Cup. So for it to be an Argentinian referee making those calls, it was, listen, come on,
No, I respect your opinion, no doubt. So I
yeah,
guess
it's all mafia there. So
so. Stepping away from that final, how do you see Croatia's future right now? Do you see it kind of?
um,
Do you see players retiring, or is there something there right now?
very bright.
Okay.
Listen, in terms of the team itself, is very bright. In terms of the politics, not
Hmm.
so much. We're sort of starting to see, us moving away from that Zdravko Mamic era. He was the owner of Dinamo Zagreb, involved in a lot of corruption. Um, but I think in terms of the overall team, we have Livakovic at Dinamo Zagreb, who's replacing Šuvašić, who was fantastic for us in that World Cup. Again, we have Dujic for me. Next big center back coming up. So I'm happy with that. We have Borna Sosa at left back.
Hmm.
Strinic unfortunately had a heart condition after that World Cup. So that was really unfortunate. But we still have a very good team. Our midfield, Kovacic, Brozovic. For me, Kovacic, top 10 midfielder in the world. Brozovic as well, best midfielder in Serie A. Plus, we have Pasalic, who's been amazing at Atalanta. We still
Okay.
have Modric, still have Rakitic. We have all the Iches. Perisic has been very good for Bayern Munich. Rebic has been a baller for
Yeah.
AC Milan. Plus, we have Kramaric, who's very good for Hoffenheim. So I
That's
think we'll be fine.
awesome. Okay, perfect. So I was kind of worried after that. Like I know maybe in qualifiers Croatia wasn't well from what I remember, but it's good to know that they have a somewhat of a future.
The problem with Croatia, and this
Hmm.
is different to Ukraine, but because I'm Croatian and Ukrainian,
Yeah.
so I support both teams. But the problem with Croatia, it isn't the quality of the team. The quality of the team is undisputed, no doubt. It's very, very good. The problem is we play down to our competition. We could draw to Macedonia and
Hmm.
beat Spain in the same week's time. So I think that's a big problem, and I think that was a hump that we got over at the World Cup. But we're still seeing that now. We're still drawing to guys like Montenegro or Macedonia, and then we'll go and beat Spain or something like that. But we always have Spain's numbers.
See, that's the opposite with the Polish national team, where we'll do really well in qualifiers. We'll smash teams. Of course, Robert Lewandowski helps. But when we come against big teams, we struggle, and we struggle to break them down. I've noticed that every time we played a big team. That's why we struggle at the World Cup. Just want to say that our manager, they lost the plot.
That's because I'm gonna go on a limb here, but that's
Yeah.
because Robert Lewandowski is a bit of a bottler.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, he works more for the team when he's with the national team. He works
Yeah,
really well off the ball. I've noticed. But in this, yeah. Like you said, you have a tough time talking about that World Cup final. I have a tough time even like going back to that World Cup
yeah.
because I was
No,
so disappointed.
the 2014 World Cup, I felt the same. That was the one time I've cried in football was when we lost to Mexico 3-1. I was not very happy.
Mm-hmm.
I was cursing Neymar's name that World Cup because he dived against
Oh
us.
yeah.
So and Pletikosa, he was our former goalkeeper before Šubašić. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted him out immediately.
Like,
Yeah.
but yeah. How about so you said you're also Ukrainian?
Yes.
How do you see their future right now? Because
I also think it's very bright.
yeah, I've heard it's very
For sure.
promising.
People say that we have no stars. We have some good players. We have is it Milanovsky from Atalanta? He doesn't
Yeah.
he doesn't get too many games for them, but he's still very, very good. We have Sigankov from Dynamo Kiev. We obviously have Yarmolenko, who's always kind of been like the household name. We have we have some good players. Listen, Pyatov is from the Cretaceous period, and he's still holding it down in the Ukrainian national team, which is crazy because you have Andriy Lunin at Real Madrid, who was certainly a touted prospect when he went there. But yeah, no, we have some good players coming up. We also have Zinchenko as well, who's kind of come into the role of being like the star player. And Andriy Shevchenko has been a very good manager for us. I mean, I think we went undefeated in qualifying, beat Portugal. I remember watching that game, fantastic game, super duper hyped. We were going to be the dark horses during this Euros, and I think we could still very much be the dark horses in the Euros next year. So I'm
Okay.
excited. Listen, it's a good time to be a Ukraine fan. It's a good time to be a Croatia fan. I'm happy with both. The only thing is obviously the corruption in Hrvatska.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I
I'm fine with
think
that.
if you're Slavic, Slavic football. I think is back on the rise again because it kind of disappeared because of politics, in my opinion, over the couple of
yeah.
years. So, I mean, a lot of people forget it. Like Yugoslavia was a dominant force of world football in the past. Poland in the
Yeah.
70s and 80s, and politics kind of ruined that. So with Slavic football back on the rise, it's gonna be nice.
I won't speak on Yugoslavia
Yeah,
because I don't
yeah,
want to.
that's no, that's fair.
I don't want a shitstorm in the comments. First of all,
we
but
don't try
second
to
of
get
all,
political, right? But
yeah, no. But listen, I think also it's just like again like the corruption and everything
yeah,
going on, especially in Hrvatska. There was a whole anybody from Croatia will know Zdravko Mamic is like the most hated guy in Croatian football. He'd be ran out of town the second that people saw him.
Hmm.
He actually fled Croatia to Bosnia,
Wow.
I think. But yeah, no. You're also seeing some talented Serbian talent, of course.
Hmm.
Predrag Rajkovic has been very prominent for Serbia and also for is it Reims in Liga? I think
Yeah.
so. Best defense in Liga alongside Paris Saint-Germain. And then you also have guys like Milenkovic, you have Milinkovic Savic, you have Jovic, you have some young guys, but still, I think Hrvatska is definitely like the team that is the kind of the dominant force there at the moment. Of course, they made it to a World Cup final, and then Ukraine in terms of the Baltics is also the most dominant. I think. I mean, obviously there's Russia, but I think this Ukraine team would beat that Russia team for sure, especially if we did so well in qualifying.
And I'm kind of happy you didn't put Poland in that conversation because I'll be honest, we've kind of been on the downslide recently. We haven't had
Yeah.
many good young players coming through. We actually did have a good crop in the mid 2010s, but we're very unfortunate with them signing with the clubs they went to and the injuries they had. There was a young player
Yeah.
we had, Rafa Wolski. He had so much potential, and he gets one injury and his career is done.
Yep. No.
Yeah, I can name a list of players that have just had, I don't know if you remember Bartosz Kapustka from the 2016 Euros.
I think yeah.
He was
No,
one
I
of
remember
those
him.
starlets in the Euro 2016, like
I remember him.
yeah, he went to Leicester because of that performance at the Euros.
Yes.
And then
I
nothing
remember him.
happened with his career. His career just dipped, and a lot of Poles blame his move to Leicester for that. It's a shame because it seemed like our national team was on the rise, and right now I don't really know who's coming up. Jan Bednarek is, in my opinion, not a great center back.
No.
I mean, no.
No, he's
So
not.
once Robert Lewandowski leaves, it's gonna be tough to see where that national team goes. I mean, Milik is all right. He's a good striker. Zielinski's
I mean, you have Zielinski
Yeah,
too.
I
But
like
he's
Zielinski a lot.
He's okay.
Piontek kind of
Piontek fell off.
yeah.
He's the definition of a honeymoon striker. He had a honeymoon at Genoa, then he had a honeymoon at AC Milan, and then now it's like
He's doing okay at Hertha now. But
I remember when we were supposed to sign him at Chelsea.
but I mean, since we're still on the topic of national teams, let's talk about one that's kind of closer to home, Canada. We're both Canadian.
I don't follow the Canadian national team that much. I'm sorry.
That's
Listen,
okay.
If Croatia or Ukraine come up against Canada, I know who I'm rooting
Yeah.
for.
I'll be honest, like some of us in the 90th minute, we don't really follow it religiously, but of course we have the likes of Alphonso Davies coming through and Jonathan David.
at Hent.
Do you have any thoughts on the current state of Canadian football, or any thoughts in general about it?
Well, I think it's pretty similar to American football in the sense that we're a young footballing nation in the sense, again, that there's very little infrastructure in the nation. Listen, Canada, it's cold. All right. It's either the pitches freeze over, or you're in a place like Toronto where they're either artificial and they're new.
Same here in Edmonton.
So so they're either artificial and new, so they only came out like 3 years ago, or you have pitches that resemble the Sahara Desert. So my local one, it's just sand essentially.
Really? Jeez.
But pretty much. But again, it's a matter of infrastructure. I think our biggest mistake would be following the English system, which has kind of been the case. Again, listen, I'm not a fan of the English system of football. I think as much as England fans rag on American and Canadian football, they're kind of to blame because their system is outdated. So I think that's a problem. But listen, I think the more and more we receive information on football, I think the more and more we'll be fine. If we do a similar thing to the U.S., where we have our young talent developing in Germany, in Belgium, I think we'll be just fine. I think Alphonso Davies is. I said quality wise, Andy Robertson has been the best left back in the world, but I think just purely off this season, it's been Alphonso Davies. He's just been that good. Jonathan David has been linked with guys, I think, like Borussia Dortmund.
Actually, it's been rumored that he's signing with Lille in France now.
With Lille. Okay,
Yeah.
that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they're offloading Victor Osimhen to Napoli, so that'll be interesting. Plus, I mean, Ligue 1 is a good league for developing talent, so I wouldn't mind that at all.
Because I don't know, it's nice that we actually have finally, a league in Canada. I don't know if you even follow the CPL at all.
I mean, the only team that I really follow is Forge FC.
Yeah.
Because listen, I'm not out in Hamilton, but
yeah.
I have ties there, so.
No, it's like if Canadian football doesn't want to progress, it's good to have a local league. I mean, you have local leagues in like some of the worst parts of Europe, and they're doing fine. Yeah. So just to have a league here is nice. Canadian football has had an interesting past, right? And so.
What's interesting about it as well is that a lot of those teams are established in university towns. So again, I mean, like you look at Toronto, for example, York. I think it's like York FC.
Yeah, York, yeah.
Yeah, they got established basically near the University of York. So I mean, you can do stuff like that, and then that way you'll be able to get young talent from those universities and essentially churn them out of those football clubs instead. But again, it's just all down to infrastructure. That's obviously going to build with time, but it depends on what kind of system you want to follow, right? And if you follow the English system, just saying, you're going to set yourself back 20 years. I'm saying that right now, unless somehow there's a magical, innovation.
Well, another thing is, I know here in Edmonton is that we have a lot of local youth teams too, and this is gonna be an interesting fact for you, I think, maybe. But we have this tournament called the Mini World Cup in Edmonton, and for whatever reason, the Croatians always win it.
That's because we're the best. I mean, listen. I mean, in Alberta, you always have Croats and Ukrainians.
Yeah,
there, so.
I'm not surprised. The Croatians are actually damn good at football, and I rate them. So
I mean, listen, in the homeland, that's like all you have, right? You're over in some spots, and it's just rocks. What are you gonna do all day?
So I guess maybe since we're kind of leaning towards the end of the discussions, let's just talk about yourself. How did you get into football aside from the Chelsea? How'd you kind of?
I just played it since I was like 5 years old,
and
also the school I went to, it was all Italians and it was all Portuguese. So the second that any competition came up, it was few Italy's better, few Portugal's better, and it was just those two fighting all the damn time. So it was like such a rivalry that like you couldn't ignore it. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll check out these international tournaments, whatever. I checked them out, and every single time it was like a war. I remember the 2012 Euros, Spain versus Italy final. You literally had the Italian fans on one side because I was at a friend's house. You had the Italian fans on one side, and you had the Portuguese on the other side, and the Portuguese were cheering for Spain to kick Italy's. So when that happened, they were all celebrating. So it was funny to watch.
Do you still currently play at all or not?
Listen, I play like intramural.
Oh, okay. It's kind of like what we do.
One time I got sent off for yelling at my own players. It was bullshit.
Oh Jesus! I think I'd like to have you on my team because we kind of need some discipline. So
I yelled at my players to stop waiting for the foul and to move the ball because the ref wasn't calling shit, and the referee just comes over, gives me a red card. She was vexed.
Jesus.
And then I don't know, man. I don't know. It was soft. It was soft. Let's just say that. But no. I mean, I'm fine. I'm about as slow as a dead snail though.
Okay, that's the same here. And with TikTok, I guess, how have you enjoyed that right now? Life on TikTok and with TikTok.
It's fun. Certainly entertaining.
Yeah.
Like having hundreds of people yell at me that I don't know what I'm talking about is, if anything, it motivates me more.
No, definitely. It makes you kind of want to learn more about the game at the same time, but it's like we get slated just because we're from North America. Like,
I don't even think so with me. For me, I expected a lot more of those types of comments.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's either I call them out and I just say like, "Yeah, you buddy," or I just I just don't pay attention to them. That like I just
It's a
don't
good
think anybody really
idea.
does it anymore. I got a lot of them early on, not so much now. So
That's good. No, hopefully, TikTok kind of fixes itself. Hopefully it doesn't get suspended.
so
I've heard there's gonna be ways for them to kind of fix the app slightly. I don't know. Hopefully,
get rid of all the Americans.
it
That's
sounds.
how you fix it.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
God, good
I'm
amount of
kidding.
reviewers are from the U.S. But I've
Yeah,
noticed there's a
no.
lot of Chelsea supporters on TikTok. I mean, there's
There's a
you,
lot.
Joey,
There's me,
on.
Nico, Asda, yeah, Cheyenne.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a bunch. There's a bunch. My boy Noah.
Yes.
Um, there's a ton actually, which is
So
crazy.
I think it's either United or Chelsea supporters, and then you got a couple Barca supporters, and
Yeah,
laugh at them right now.
we're always
But
fighting with each other though. Always United and Chelsea fans, just having it at one another, which is fair enough because I
yeah,
mean we're both fighting for the same spot, right?
that's the question right now. I guess we're back in the Prem, but who's winning the FA Cup final or semi-final?
Listen,
Chelsea or United?
hopefully I can do a Chelsea versus United preview. But if I'm being totally 100% objective, if N'Golo Kante comes back into the team, or if Frank plays Jovicic, that's one thing. But if he decides to play Jorginho with 2 attacking number 8s, or Kovacic with 2 attacking number 8s, what you're gonna see is either Jorginho being completely stranded on his own, or Kovacic try and progress the ball, move up the pitch, give it to Mason Mount and Ross Barkley. They lose it. United start a counterattack, and then you have this massive gap of space. If you allow that type of space for guys like Martial, Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Pogba to hit it over the top, you're getting screwed over.
Hmm.
So, I mean,
And
it's either going to go that way or we control the possession.
yeah,
Again, if I was Frank, if I was Frank trying to play his system, which is one lone DM with 2 8s, which by the way is a stupid system, in my opinion. But if he tries doing that, sit back. Just for the love of God, sit back and just park the bus, essentially, and try and hit him on the break with Christian Pulisic and hopefully Callum Hudson-Odoi. But if you're going to try and take it to him, you play that Jovicic pivot, you play Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who was pretty good today, and especially in terms of holding onto the ball. And you play Callum Hudson-Odoi and you play Christian Pulisic, and you essentially play a team that can actually hold onto the ball if you're trying to go forward. So I think that Frank's going to try and go back to a system of Mount and Barkley. I think there's a reason why Barkley didn't play today. I think there was a reason why Mason Mount didn't play today, which, I mean, it worries me, right? So, I mean, Proscio used to say, don't let that be the case. But, again, I gotta do one more, because hopefully he doesn't do that. Hopefully either he plays that system and sits back, or he plays a proper team and he actually tries to, attack with the ball.
like from what it seems in the Premier League, the war, it's like it's not been Liverpool versus Chelsea, Liverpool versus City all season. It's been Chelsea versus United. So Liverpool went on and won the title easy, but it's been really that battle between Chelsea and United. And for whatever reason, United somehow had your number. We beat you guys 3 times. I don't know how. And
listen, again, first time was again down to lack of defensive organization. Second time, Carabao Cup game. I don't care that much. Like, whatever. The third game was just bullshit. That was just bullshit calls from the referee. If you check the expected goals, it was like, I think we either had more expected goals than you guys, or it was like 1-1. It was like a draw. So yeah, no, it shouldn't have been a loss. That's for sure. And listen, some of those calls were bullshit. Maguire should have been off. We should have had our goal from Cesar Spilicueta stand. Plus, I mean, Giroud's goal got disallowed for an offside. So whenever people mention to me 3 times, I'm just like, okay, well, you got to look at it further. And that's what I mean by looking further at stuff.
I remember in the first game of the season that we played you guys did dominate us for the most part in the first half until we got that penalty, which kind of just deflated you guys, and then we just took it from there. Essentially, it's one of those moments where a decision can change a match, just like that.
But then again, that was down to a lack of defensive organization and poor defensive positioning by Kurt Zouma. That was a poor game from him. So,
yeah. And I guess, the last question we're going to have here is, what do you expect in the last matches for Chelsea, whether they can deliver top 4? So you have Wolves and Liverpool.
I'm going to say it right now. Knowing Frank's luck. Frank's luck is, there's no luckier man on the planet. He will beat Liverpool at Anfield and he will end their streak. It's going to happen.
Okay.
It's going to happen. I will not be surprised. I won't be.
I like that.
I'll just be like, yep, I called this. Against Wolves, I think we'll win there too. I don't think Wolves are too much to fight for. It's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. We're going to find a way to beat Liverpool at Anfield. I don't know how. Listen, I don't know what kind of crazy shit God has planned, but it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something unprecedented. You're gonna see. Never gonna see anything like it before. It's gonna bounce off Joe Gomez, then off Van Dijk, then off Trent Alexander-Arnold, then Dale Lovren's gonna jump on the pitch and it's gonna bounce off him, and it's gonna bounce off Ali Son, and then it's gonna go to fucking Willian for a goal, and then he's gonna get signed to a 3-year contract. Just watch. It's gonna happen.
Shoot. Okay, I like that. I like the I feel like it's gonna turn into a good TikTok, but
it's gonna yeah, no, buddy, clip that. That's gonna it's happening.
I'll clip it. I'll send it to you. You can put that on your TikToks and whatnot. I guess
Perfect.
I do have one last question. Do you think Wolves can make top 4? We've had that question. I just want to know your thoughts on that.
No, they can get close, but I don't think they're gonna get it.
No, okay, perfect. Well, I guess that's all we have. Dude, Pat, thank you for coming on, man. I've been wanting you on for a while just because you've got really good football knowledge compared to some people I've seen on TikTok. Nothing against those guys.
No, we're not throwing shots.
No.
I'm just kidding, Waz. Name them out. Roast them. Go for him. Go for the throat.
No, I like your opinions. I like how in depth you go in, how analytical. I wish we can bring that to the 90th minute on like a nightly basis. So, I mean, yeah. Hey, guys, if you haven't seen, give Pig Pav a good follow. We'll have his links in the description, his TikToks, everything.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Listen, as a United fan, I'm surprised that you like my opinions because half the time it's me slating you guys off, and half the time it's me slating my own team off. So.
Over the years, I've just learned to kind of respect others' opinions. It's like, hey, man, it is what it is. Like,
yeah. Hey, listen, I don't blindly hate. I just
exactly.
I
I've noticed that.
as possible.
With Xiao, how do you say? Cheyenne. He blindly hits United. Whenever I've talked to them, he just goes for the throat for United. Oh, we're gonna beat you. We're gonna beat you.
Good man. You know what? God bless him. Proper supporter there.
He is.
I'm just plastic, according to everybody.
Oh, bro. I mean, if you're from North America and you wear a football kit from anywhere, you're a plastic, right? Once again, thank you so much, Pav, and yeah, we'll talk to you again soon. We'll have you on again.